From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. Good show tonight. A great opportunity for you to call in if you have questions about caring for someone who is getting older, a parent, you're caring for a parent. This is your chance to call in with questions. Happy to have with us Tim Takis, elder law attorney. Tim, thank you for being here once again.
Oh, glad to be back.
Always good to have you here. And I always like to ask,
yes.
So what are you seeing in your office? What's coming through the door this time of year?
What's coming through the door this time of year? We're seeing a lot of course, again, older people that are walking into the office, and we're actually seeing more people who are fairly advanced age, obviously not doing very well, and are struggling to figure out whether they need to be able to stay at home, or can their children or somebody else take care of them, what their options are. One of the things that, I know we've talked about this in the past, but we see fewer and fewer people now are actually spending much time in a nursing home. And more people are getting more help at home, figuring out how to pay for it, figuring out what to do next. Can I take care of mom at home? Can I take care of my husband? At home, all those sorts of things is what we're seeing. That's really a lot of what we're seeing now. And
so you're seeing the people themselves that are maybe a little older. How often are you seeing kids bring in, talking about their parents?
I mean, that is regular. That is pretty typical.
Is it more that, or is it the other? It's
pretty much the same. I mean, it's funny how you start. Since as you know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and you see, back in the mid-90s, you were either going to be in a nursing home or you're going to live at home, and now we have so many more options, and we have all sorts of different attitudes about living at home, about residential care and facilities, so it's all altogether different. Like, for instance, in Hendersonville, which is where I practice, when I started practicing in Hendersonville, there was maybe 2 assisted livings, maybe 1, and maybe a partly of another one. And now we have like 6 or 7 of them. And sometimes we think about, and we lost, there's 1 nursing home that we don't have, so we used to have 2 nursing homes, now we have 1. The nursing home that we do have is really mostly focused on acute care, people who are really sick, as to older people who need assistance. So, a lot of changes that we have been seeing over the last 10, 15 years.
And do you think that's good?
Oh, yes, it is.
Because the nursing home, we've talked, it's $8,000
$8,000 a month, right.
It's thousands upon thousands of dollars every month.
Right.
So you want an alternative.
We want an alternative. And in the past, like I said, when I started practicing, of course, it wasn't $8,000 a month then, but it was maybe $5,000 or $6,000, but people weren't, back in the 90s, they weren't being able to afford that. And so now we're seeing less and less of that, and more of people living, staying in the community, living in a residential facility like an assisted living. Yeah, and it can be expensive. It can be $4,000 or $5,000 a month, but it's not $8,000.
Good grief.
So people are able to, they have, like you said, they have more options, and it's really good for them. It's really good for the families, knowing that, daddy's not going to a nursing home, that he's actually going to be able to live in the community with other older people and being high functioning for a long period of time. And all of that is good news for all of us.
And what I like about this show is we encourage people to call in. Sometimes someone will call in about a parent that they're caring for, perhaps even themselves, and a chance for them to tell their story.
Absolutely.
And get some advice.
Yeah.
And so we encourage you to do that. There's a number at the bottom of the screen. Let's go to the phones now. Let's go to Ada. Hello, Ada.
Hi. I've got a challenge to both of you. Ben, I hope you'll investigate this, and Tim, I hope maybe you'll be able to get an answer as well and maybe include it in your newsletter.
Okay.
It has to do with the subject of medical savings accounts, something I had never even heard of until I became Medicare eligible. And I had a health savings account, and just for those who don't know about this, once you become eligible for Medicare, you can no longer contribute to a health savings account. You can make withdrawals just as you have all along, but you can't increase your basically what you have to to draw from. And in an age when everybody's looking at medical care in general as something that we're going to have to basically everybody for themselves, to the extent that we can do that, I don't know why the Republican Party isn't on this right away. Now, the medical savings account is the same as an HSA, except it's offered by Medicare for Medicare recipients. However, it's not offered in the state of Tennessee. And the only thing I can come up with after calling the State Department of Insurance and talking with the SHIP people and talking with Medicare and everybody that I know to talk with is that it's just not very lucrative. I know even getting an HSA was very difficult for me. I got it, the only bank that offered it locally was Wells Fargo, and when all this stuff came out about them, actually before then, about that same time, they indicated they were getting out of the HSA business and they were turning it over to another bank. And so I was wondering if there was any connection between that and everything else Wells Fargo went through, but apparently there's not.
So your question is about HSAs,
HSAs and Medicare savings accounts, and it's very interesting because I can tell you, I mean, we've been doing this show for a long time. And since I think like 2000 or two, I mean, I've been on for 16, 17 years every month, and I don't know that we've ever had a question about Medicare savings account.
I agree.
And fortunately, I know a little bit about them. We actually, when I say we, I'm talking about my wife and I, although I don't have a Medicare savings account because I'm not eligible yet for Medicare. But back in the mid-90s, when HSAs really started, health savings accounts started coming up, my wife and I, that's how we got our health insurance. And for viewers who are maybe unfamiliar with what that is that you buy a health insurance policy, and maybe it has a fairly high deductible, maybe of $2,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is. But a portion of the premium that you pay goes into a savings account, a health savings account. And for healthier people like we are, fortunately, and that we've been for the last 20 years, a percentage of our premium goes into the health savings account. And so you're able to accumulate money tax-free, which you can use to pay deductibles and pay medical expenses, and the Medicare savings account is very similar to that. The difference is that, as Ada mentioned, is that it's a very interesting product for Medicare to actually offer to people, which, it's been a while since I've looked into them, but they are a part of the law, Medicare law, that there are some states that that they would be offered by a health insurance company, but for whatever reason in Tennessee there are no as Ada points out, there are no Medicare health savings accounts, MSAs, that are offered in the state of Tennessee. So our citizens here, our residents, don't have that option, to be able to essentially, pay a premium into the system,
right,
and get this, for healthy older people, Medicare beneficiaries, where they can actually start banking money that they could use later, like as a savings account. Which
and that's a good thing to be able to do.
It can be a good thing. It's a good thing for if you're a healthier older person, where some portion of your Medicare premium dollars actually goes into a savings account for you. Kind of like younger people like Lynn and I, my wife and I, where we've done that with a regular health insurance. So, maybe somewhere down the road somebody's, some company will say, yeah, we really need to focus on this. What can we do to make it more attractive to companies to start developing these? So,
all right, Ada,
really interesting question.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Ada. All right, we're going to take a break and then come back. Mike and others, or a few lines open if you want to call in. There's the number, 615-737+. 615-737-7587. Taking your calls, questions about elder law. Take a break. Be back right after this.